can run on for a long time, run on for a long time, run on for a long time. Sooner or later gotta cut you down, sooner or later gotta cut you down. Go tell them.
Well, the League Cup final of 1971 was just one of many Hampden memories I have. I mean, I think of going back to 1946 and the Victory International, and Jackie Husband late in the game lofting a free kick to the far post, Willie Waddle heading down, Jimmy Delaney beating Frank Swift, the only goal of the game, ending all the agony of the wartime games where England stuffed Scotland regularly. Then in 1955, 3 Partick Thistle players lined up for Scotland against Hungary, and this was our first glimpse of Hidiguti, Kosciusz, the young Puskás, and the Hungarians showed us, I suspect, how the game should be played by winning 4-2. Then, not long after STV was on the air, we decided that we would follow a team for the 1959 Scottish Cup. And one of my friends, John Temple, who was a scriptwriter at the time but was also a Paisley buddy, suggested that we follow St Mirren, and we followed them all the way to Hampden. And of course they beat Aberdeen 3-1 in the final, and we followed the team into the square at Paisley. The cup was nearly lost, but it was a wonderful night. Back at Hampden the following year for possibly the best game ever seen in Scotland, Real Madrid versus Eintracht, a fabulous night and a commentator's dream. 7-3, all the goals, 2 players, Puskás and Di Stefano, sharing 7 goals, absolutely fantastic. Then the following year we're back again with Dunfermline. Dunfermline were playing Celtic in the final of the Scottish Cup, and in the first game, which was a draw, Eddie Conaghan, the Dunfermline goalkeeper, gave one of the greatest goalkeeper performances I think I've ever seen. And so to the replay, and Celtic lost the replay to Dunfermline, and we followed Dunfermline, Jock Stein and all, back into the town, where they of course got a huge welcome. The parallel between that game and the Partick Thistle game 10 years later is quite interesting, because I spoke to Jock Stein before the game and said to him, "Do you really think that you can beat Celtic? Now come on Jock, tell me the truth." And he said, "If I don't believe that we can win," he said, "the players won't believe that I can win." So they went out and they beat Celtic after a replay, and again we followed them into the town. 10 years later, fast forward to the Partick Thistle game, and I remember in this very building talking to Davy McParland and saying, "Do you really believe that Partick Thistle can beat Celtic?" And he said, well, his answer more or less was identical to Jock Stein's. "If I don't believe it, the players won't believe it." So he said, "I do believe it." And I spoke to Dennis McQuaid, the man of the magic shuffle, and I said to Dennis, "Dennis, the boss says that he thinks you can win this game." Oh, he said, "Of course." He said, "There's no point in us turning up unless we can win it." And win it they did.
And here at Hampden Park, it's going to be Celtic kicking off, attacking the goal on the right in the final of the Scottish League Cup, with Williams, Hay and Gemmell, Murdoch, Connolly and Brogan, Johnston, Dalglish, Hood, Callaghan and McCarry. And Partick Thistle have Ruff, Hanson and Forsyth, Glavin, Campbell and Strachan, McQuaid and Coulston, Bone, Ray and Laurie. The respective substitutes: Jim Craig is the Celtic 12th man and John Gibson is the Partick Thistle sub.
The Celtic team of 1971 was a good side, and they played their part in what was a memorable match. As I recall, I don't think there was a bad foul in the game. I don't think there were any bookings, and both sides played their part in the great game. But this was a good Celtic side. They had a good record. Lisbon, of course, was still to come, but it was a good Celtic team, which made Thistle's victory all the more meritorious. David McParland produced a team for that particular game, which was absolutely perfect for the occasion. Back in my notes, I'm absolutely fascinated to find that Thistle appeared, at any rate from the team sheets, to have 5 forwards. And if you mention that nowadays, of course, people would laugh hysterically. 1 up, exciting, playing 2 up, gee whiz. But when you think of the forward lines that I've seen at Hampden over the years, Canario, Del Sol, De Stefano, Puskis and Gento, the St Mirren side that I mentioned earlier, Roger, Bryceland, Baker, Gemmell, Miller, teams like that, they had 5 forwards. So the team that David McParland put together was a good blend of youth, experience and eccentricity, and I'm sure Dennis McQuaid doesn't mind me saying that in the least. I think after the first goal, I looked around me in the commentary box, which was high up in the stand, and I looked down and I could see 1 or 2 Celtic fans whom I knew sort of shaking their heads, and for the first time with the Celtic players there was an element of doubt began to creep into their play and their demeanour.
Probably couldn't believe it. It looked as every physical attack we were going to score. I'm not going to stress. Thistle played, exceptionally well the first half. A lot of good players, I've got to remember that as well, and deserves the victory on the day.
Body language in football is a very hard to define thing, but you could see Celtic suddenly realising that this was not going to be easy. But out on the pitch, McParland and his side, well organised, good defence, good midfield, and as I say, 5 guys up in attack, all of whom wanted to score goals, and 4 of them did.
Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
Play the corner kick. Over it comes, nicely placed, up go the heads. And it's stopped almost on the line, still not cleared. Down to Ray. And it's a goal! Ray scores for Thistle! McQuaid flicking it forward to Bowen, on to Laurie. Laurie at the edge of the box, inside, right foot shot to the far side, and it's there! Laurie scores a sensational goal. Laurie with a corner, up go the heads, chance for Thistle, McQuaid scores! A sensation! 30 minutes played and it's 3-0. Taken by Laurie. In comes Bowen. Walks the ball into the net. It's 4-0.
Many years ago, in the early days of Scotsport, which I started off in 1957, there were inevitably comments, calls, letters in the paper, not just about my sports jackets, but about what team I supported. And I have to say that very early on I declared as a Greenokian that my favourite team was, of course, Morton. And I first saw them with the present chairman, Douglas Ray, way back in 1942. It's as far back as that. And the team you see first is, of course, the team that you support. And it's a wonderful thing when a small, and I put that in inverted commas, club wins anything big. I mentioned St Mirren going back into the town with them, same with Dunfermline. It's a wonderful occasion for an alleged smaller club. That was Thistle's day, and although they were a smaller club than Celtic, and Celtic, I have to say, were very good losers that night. That day, although they lost, it was Thistle's day, very much so. Commentators very often have varying reputations, and I suspect that when all is said and done, and I finally shuffled off, and I'm 82 now, people will remember the jackets. They'll remember the Stramash, which I used. They'll remember Disaster for Scotland, which I did say.
Fantastic business going on in the goal here. What a sensation!
And what they don't know and what they didn't know was that whenever I did a Scotland game, I had a bit of white heather in here and a tan scarf around my neck. So it was unashamedly Scottish, but it was wonderful to see that game, and it was, as I mentioned before, it was a particularly good game. Very, very few bad fouls. As I recall, nobody was booked. It was just a great game to see. Well, in football, you can never say never. The year, for example, that Morton won the Cup, when they beat Rangers way back in the 20s, they were such second favourites and not expected to win, that instead of going back to Greenock with the Scottish Cup, they embarked on a train and went to Hartlepool to play a friendly match on a Monday, because nobody expected them to win, but when they did. So you just never know in football.
God's gonna cut you down.